for us. We know the importance of ownership, but everybody doesn't know that. So we wanted to make sure we had a conversation, and that is where we've have Vadra Johnson. That's where we have Kalila Ling, Alicia Wells. Have you ever been to an event before with Black women speaking on real estate? You here now? So when we did buy back the block, we did have another person with us, Shemay Moore, who couldn't be a part of the event tonight, but it was very wonderful to be in the presence of such dynamic women who all share the love of real estate, but come from different backgrounds, different perspectives, and so much value that they were able to add to that event. So tonight, here we go again, buy back the block part two. They're going to bring you some conversation. We're going to have some real conversation, ladies. If you want to go on and take your seats, my host, Miss Brianna, if you want to come on up, she is also a real estate agent here. We got some professionals here for you. You better be networking. Take somebody number. Your next job might be here. Some folk here I used to work with at Bank of America. Know some folk here I work with at Chase. Some companies in here, right? So this is really what it's all about. You shouldn't leave here without taking somebody's number, contact information. We got photography, videography. Everybody here does something. So make sure you talk to somebody tonight. And I guess we'll just start off introducing. Here, ladies, you got a mic. We'll start it off. You want to introduce yourself, Ms. Johnson? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Vadra Johnson, local realtor serving Delaware and Pennsylvania with Berkshire and Hathaway in Brandywine off of 202. I've been licensed for 9 years now, and I'm happy to be here. Nisha, this is a wonderful event that you and your team have put on, so thank you for putting this affair on again and inviting us back out this evening. Thank you.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Alicia Cooper Wells. I'm known on social media as Miss Cooper Home Loans. I'm a wife, a mother, and serial entrepreneur. I focus on being the source of the money. So whenever you need financing for buying a property, whether it's the house you want to live in, your forever home, or your starter home, or if you want to live in a property for profit, an investment property, I'm here to help you along that way and along that journey. And I want to say thank you as well, Nish, for your passion to keep this going. I'm going to ask all of you to, like, as you were coming in today, driving here, think about what you saw around you. Think about the different things and emotions that you felt when it came to real estate and when it came to making an impact. And if you're thinking of something right now, take your phone out and write that down, because I'm certain we'll have a question around that. And you have the people here to help you answer how to make that into a reality today. And don't miss this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Kalila Ling. I am also a local realtor here in Delaware. I actually have been a realtor for 6 years, and I came from a financial background working for a bank for over 20 plus years. So coming into this type of environment and being a realtor, I bring my passion and wanting to see us own our homes instead of renting and throwing away that money that we could so use for ourselves. So I'm very passionate about that. I want to thank Nisha and her team also for inviting me again to be able to speak to you guys and to bring my passion here. And I echo the same thing that Alicia said about when you drove here, how did you feel about your environment? And let's make a difference, right? And we can do that by utilizing the money and our resources to buy back the block. So that's why we're here. Okay. All right.
Right, ladies. All right, I'm ready to buy a house. All right, so we're gonna start right on down with Miss Vager. Right now, how would you describe the climate of the real?
Um, it is. It's cutthroat. Someone in the audience said it's cutthroat. It's not what you saw in 2020, 2021, but you're still seeing multiple offers on certain places where the location, your Middletown areas, your North Wilmington areas, the desired school districts. So you're still seeing the multiple offer over asking Offers are still being presented. Inspections, you're seeing a few waivers on inspections. What I've been seeing lately is waive a certain dollar amount as far as the ask when it comes to the repairs. That's what I'm seeing. Stronger deposits. This is not pre-COVID $1,000 down market. This is, if you got $10,000, you need to put $10,000 down. If you can afford your closing costs and your down payment, please do so. If you don't have it, there are programs available, but if you can put together a strong offer and your best foot forward, that is my recommendation. Still in this market, even though the rates are not, what we had seen before in the threes and in the fours. Yes, they are in the sixes and sevens. They're going down a little bit, but there's still competition.
Hello? Okay, sorry. Thank you for that. As a fellow real estate agent as well, I feel like we have had a hard year for sure. Definitely because people got so used to 2020 and 2021 as well. So I would have to second that notion. Do you think there are any unique opportunities and challenges that minority face when it comes to financing and purchasing homes?
I feel the need to chime in there. So when it comes to minorities buying homes, I want to say no matter what market it is, we have a challenge. So if we start from that place, then maybe we can stop waiting, because the waiting is the biggest issue I find. I've never bought a property at the right time. I now own over 100. And driving here today was very emotional for me. I'm actually was a single mom living over East Side when I bought my first house. And I was looking around and I was just thinking, that's why my question was, how did it make you feel? Because you probably don't feel like I feel, or you may feel what I felt driving here today. And I was like, I remember that first house I bought and how foolish I was told that I was when I bought a house behind the MBNA building on King Street, the same exact zip code, for $85,000. Now all of us are like 85,000, but at that time, just to say how old I was 20. So that was 20 years ago. I'll be 40 next year. um, my parents thought it was crazy. My aunts, my friends, except for one, thought it was crazy. And her and I actually bought two houses side by side. And when I bought that house, I used a program. So my mission, I like to tell people, is being willing to have your plan, not the plan someone else gives you. Because if you guys, I know this is recorded, if you catch me anywhere, I'm gonna tell you I don't like down payment assistance programs. I feel like they're very targeted. I believe that same 85,000 could have bought me a house really in a better neighborhood, but the program only existed if I bought a house that at the time was not worth 85,000 in the hood. So that is why I tell people to understand what your plan is. So my plan was to own. That was my plan. My plan was so much to own that I bought the house and then ended up moving back into my Section 8 apartment because I wasn't ready. After I closed, I went back to my real estate agent and I was like, "Can I give it back?" And it was a eye-opening moment for me. My son was sitting on the door of the dishwasher Now, how many of y'all old school, y'all don't actually use the dishwasher to wash dishes, just the drying rack, right? So I was washing the dishes and he was sitting there and I was loading the dishwasher with these dishes to dry. And something hit me like, yo, if he breaks the door of this dishwasher in this new house we just bought, I'm gonna break his face. Like that was how, but guess what? I hadn't trained him. It was okay for him to do that where we were. And it was really a responsible moment when it comes to finances that I want to highlight. So I shared all of that to say when it comes to finances and programs, we have to get to a point of where we're going to decide that we're in control of our money. And we're going to set an expectation of what we can afford. So when you come to a mortgage lender, what we do is we make a determination of what you can afford based on how much income you have. Now, if you are a full-time employee, and I'm talking about not contracted, I mean full-time employee with benefits, we use pretty much all of your income that you have. If you're self-employed, contracted, uh, anything in that space, I'm talking about a travel nurse, you're making a lot of money, but if you take your rightful deductions, we only include the income that you pay taxes on. So you may feel like you can buy a house somewhere, like I can afford that. But there's two strategies that we have. Now, some people are like, well, why wouldn't they use all of the income if I'm working full-time hours and I'm putting my time in? I didn't make the rules, but that is the rule. That's the mortgage truth behind how we look at the income. And how many of us are the gig workers, right? So who does that affect really? We're often the gig workers. We're the ones that make enough money from our 5 jobs. We doing it all. We doing Uber, we doing DoorDash, I told you I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I'm talking to myself here too. Now, as I as Vadra brought up, if you have money to put down, you are now more in control. But I don't want you to wait until you have a picture perfect scenario to get started. So I want to leave you with, when it comes to minorities, there's never a right time. There's never a right time. We always face challenges. It's hard to cover the rent. It's going to be hard to cover the mortgage. But the difference is you're now covering the mortgage and you're building equity. And even if the property doesn't appreciate in value, that means it doesn't go up in value outside of it. It goes up in value as you pay that balance down. So take control of your finances. Don't wait for a program. But if you are willing to buy in areas that may not be the middle town, that may not be where someone else said is favorable, or if you're young and you aren't worried about school district, or you can put your child in a charter school, buy now and buy what you can afford.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for saying that because I live right here in Wilmington, right? I live right on the west side. My zip code is 19805. And I'm proud of that. My mom always said, who lives right on North Side, 31st and Market. I grew up in the city. I've only ever lived in the city. And my mom always said, it doesn't matter where you live at, take pride and value in your home. So although I might be on the west side, it don't feel like it inside, right? So keep that in mind as you're thinking about buying these houses because my rent is not going up and can't nobody put me out. So that's the other side of I live in the hood, but I don't have no landlord saying the rent's going up, but the amenities and the features is not. Hello, somebody. Hello, somebody. Shout out to my dad that was at my house painting my kitchen today. Okay, I'm been asked to move on the other side. All right, as I move and talk, Kalila, wealth investment be leveraged as a tool for building generational minority communities. And I can ask it again if I need to. Sweet. So how can, my apologies, building wealth, how can real estate investment, how can a real estate investment be leveraged as a tool for building generational wealth within minority communities?
So everybody knows Big Mama, right? Everybody love going over how Big Mama may have maintained that home if it isn't up again. Oh. Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm gonna talk a little softer. Okay, so no one, so I stepped back on Big Mama's house, right? No one took the time to find out how she maintained that, right? We just love being there. We never actually took the time to understand, and we're not typically taught in our communities how to maintain that. So when they pass away, so does that home, right? And we often, I know I do, I ride down the block and I remember the great times, but that home is now owned by someone else, right? And if we had understood, in most cases, our grandparents probably paid pennies on a dollar for that home. And if we had maintained it by just taking care of the taxes, it would still be in our family. So I say that because now that we own homes or should be owning our own homes, we could do the same thing. We need to be able to take our properties and pass it down to our children properly so they're not taxed heavily on it. Even if we stay in it for a little while, say it's a starter home, because most times we're not living in our dream home to begin with. We actually get a starter home, utilize the equity from that home potentially to purchase the next home. Or I just heard recently, and this is not a new technique, but you buy something that's multiple homes in one, like an apartment complex. You purchase it, maybe two, three, maybe four homes in that, and you rent it out to someone else while they're paying your mortgage. You take that equity out of that and buy something else. Or that could be a three home, like a three big apartment or whatever the case may be, duplex, triplex, right? And you keep going until you buy your dream home. But you're building wealth because at the end of the day, you're not actually selling those things. They're still income producing, right? So we just need to understand how to leverage where we live to build wealth generationally by protecting it properly and not walking away from it, right? If we get the education now, especially I say starting with our younger kids, because even if you're at a certain age, it's not too late, right? It's not too late. But I think it's important to get our younger children in here so they can understand how to do it. Most importantly, because now they're starting younger, and imagine where they will be when they get our age. So the information that you're getting now, don't lock it into your own heart. Share it with your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, whoever those young people are. And when we have another event just like this, invite them to come, because this is the time to teach them when they're most vulnerable and they're most open to ideas, right? So that's my answer.
Yes, we are. Thank you. And just to share with further on what you were saying, my family and I was faced with a tragedy, much like others in 2020. My father had passed away. Now he bought the house that we have, 4 bedroom. It had a pool in the backyard. It's in the nicer area in Delaware, and so we was faced with a question: do we keep the house or do we sell it and then take the money and do whatever? We just split it between the siblings, and we actually decided to keep it because of what you're saying, just being able to have the home that is always going to be home. We have Thanksgiving there, we have Christmas there, and we wanted to keep just that love and that not just the monetary part, but just that love and that care with the family. So yes, that is something that is very important. um, okay. Do any of you have any advice for individuals who are looking to invest in real estate, even if it's commercial, like past properties, anything? Sorry. Do any of you have any advice for anyone who wants to invest in real estate, far as like if they want to do anything commercial or like she was saying, if they wanted to do a duplex or
So yes, I'm a little chatty patty, y'all. So I gotta write my stuff down. And Nisha gonna look at me, tap me, and say, "Oh, you getting a little long winded. Lay in that plane." So my advice, I had to write my points down. Make sure you do your research. If you really want to get into this business, do your research and educate yourself on the market and the different trends that are out there. And when I say looking at the market and the trends, you can go and look at plans that the city or the state may have. There's a big revitalization effort on the east side. There's things going on in Southbridge if you own or if you live a beautification, things on the riverfront. So go look at those plans because those plans will tell you where those areas are trending. Build a network, a support of other investors who you can call on and ask questions because they've been there before. They've seen the good, bad, and the ugly in this business. Financial literacy. Understand your credit, your finances, what you're able to do in terms of buying, and your loan options and terms. Um, I'm going to give an example of a friend. I sold a house to them in a really nice area of in Philadelphia, and they took out hard money. And hard money have a lot of stringent terms to it. And they didn't have a strategy on how to get out of those terms and took too long to finish the project and has not completed the project. So they had to refi or do something and literally had to come to the table with an extra $15,000 for a penalty. So that was a risk that they did not foresee in their plan because they didn't understand their terms, but also not planning accordingly to finish the project. Be realistic with your goals. Understand what you're gonna do in this business. Are you gonna flip? Are you going to renovate, hold the property for a little while, or just sell it? Like I said, understand your risk and how you're going to mitigate whatever challenges may come your way. Always do your due diligence. Um, Understand what your value is, the repairs that you're going to do, and also look at community engagement opportunities. For example, I don't know if it's going on now, but in the past, if you were a City of Wilmington employee, they were given $5,000 to buy a house in the city. Or if you've done a project and you're looking to make your house attractive, especially if it's not in a desire area, go to the different businesses and say, like Christiana Care, which is down the street, I'm willing to give a $10,000 credit to the buyer towards their closing costs. So be creative when I say community engagement if you want to get into this business. Thank you.
So I have a presentation. If you guys want to write down what the right questions are to ask. So often people ask the question, what's the interest rate in the closing costs whenever they're looking to buy an investment property? And it's not that those are the wrong questions, but those are the latter questions. And that's, I believe, Vedra was saying, you got to educate yourself because I first want to give you what I consider the 8 risks that you face when you're buying investment properties. First is the home price risk, right? It may not keep its value. You cannot believe that it's always going to go up like anything else. Then the carrying cost. So for carrying a mortgage, Phaedra gave you guys the greatest example. They had to pay $15,000 for just having the mortgage to refinance it, to keep the same property. It wasn't a new house that they bought. That is carrying cost. And these are terms that a lot of us probably have never heard before. We watch HGTV and we see that the job takes longer, but nobody says that there's penalties for them. And those penalties are part of what's called your carrying cost? Do you have to make the mortgage while you're renovating? How are you going to renovate it? You know, gurus like me could give you strategies of using a credit card, but how you going to pay that credit card while you don't have a tenant? You know, eviction cost. That one I find that people don't think about when we're in trying markets like now where people are losing jobs. You know, how do you get them out? Or are you in a position to make the mortgage payment while they aren't actually making a mortgage payment but are still inside of your property? You know, maintenance costs, vacancy risk, opportunity cost, lack of liquidity. So, lack of liquidity, I like to highlight. I often hear people say, oh, in my house, I have $50,000 in equity. Well, liquidity means, can you get that 50 out? So just because you have equity in the property, can you actually get that equity out of the property? So when you bought your house, you had a job, a full-time job. You didn't have that new car. Since you've moved in, that debt to income ratio is shot. So can you actually get out the liquidity? Can you get the equity? So I always encourage people, get the equity out when you can, because otherwise it gets trapped in your four walls because you have to qualify to get it out. And then if your strategy or your exit plan, which are things Vadra brought up, do you know how much it actually costs to sell a property? Have you considered that your real estate agent might be 6%? Have you considered that the transfer taxes here in Delaware are some of the highest in the country? So you're looking at 8% to sell. And if your margin was only 10%, that means you only get to keep 2% of it when you actually go to sell the property. So those are the risks, and not to be the Debbie Downer, but I find that those are the terms that people don't bring up. But then what are the right questions to ask? So what am I trying to accomplish? Going back to what I said when you're wanting to buy a house, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you buying your house to live in, your home sweet home, or are you buying a property for profit, an investment property? Second question, is investing in real estate really the best way to get what I want? I love real estate. I love investing in real estate, but investing in real estate isn't for everyone. There's a lot of risk associated with investing in real estate, particularly in the market we're in right now. How can I increase my rate of return? That goes into the strategy that you might have with your real estate agent, your friend, but usually not the strategy from the bank. Okay? Because the bank is like, they see one purpose. They see this as an event space. And they look at one mortgage payment that has to be paid. They're not sitting there telling you, you got to close 15 parties this month. Right? So you got to have the support of your network to remind you what your plan and strategy was to be able to maintain. And these are the questions you have to ask, because the rate of return might be, you thought you could only throw parties. Well, what about leasing the parking lot? You know, what about other opportunities you have, and that comes from your network? And then last is, how do you reduce your risk, right? Because I said all of that, and there are ways to reduce your risk when buying real estate. There are strategies. There rent to own. There's lease holdbacks. And I want you to write those words down, because those are the words you're going to need to Google and do your self-education on. You know, finding a tenant that might have a credit challenge and can't get approved to buy a house right now. But I could be your landlord for the next 2 to 3 years. and we'll improve this house to meet your desires. Oh, you want these type of floors in there? Great. Now you already have your tenant in place before you actually close on the property and you start renovating. These are the ways to mitigate and reduce the risk that Vedra brought up. It's risk in everything, and it's hard. It's life is hard. You know, strategies are simple. They're not easy. You know, I'm here like eight simple questions, right? Like, you know, they're very simple, but they're not easy. But what makes it easier is having the right network and the willingness to ask questions. And, you know, I'm going to throw my last shade part out. The white man's ice ain't colder, because many of us don't want to share our finances with somebody that looks like us. So now you listen to a strategy that doesn't even relate to you. And you don't understand why you found yourself in a situation. But maybe it was really uncomfortable when that sister or that brother said, "Hey, I know you want that house for 400,000, but did you consider how much your child care was?" Instead of getting upset that they in your business, understand that they're there to help you. Because homeboy at the bank, the white man, his wife at home. They don't have a child care bill. Okay? Or they might even have a nanny. Okay, she's there, there's two incomes there. And I just really want to highlight that because, you know, this was, I'm being honest, this is very emotional for me. Doing events home, right? This is my home. Like I told you, I live down the street. I still live in Delaware. It's very different because I had to leave for people to hear me, right? And then I came back, but I understand where the degree of separation happens at some of those places. You know, I'm in your business. I'm mentioning the things I see on Facebook to you. And that's uncomfortable. But if you're willing to be transparent with your lenders, with your banker, and build that team, no, they might not help you buy the house in Middletown as your first house, but you will be buying that house, the one you can afford at that time, because you were able to keep the house you're in. And when you buy the big house, the thing about it is many of us get to keep them, but we can never leave them. That becomes the trap, okay? Because we're now in a loan modification and we can't get approved for another loan. We filed 2 bankruptcies to save our house on the day of foreclosure. You know, I want you guys to understand how the problem happens. And it really gets started from that first property when you don't have the team and you don't ask the right questions.
Thank you, thank you. Just to further elaborate more on what she was speaking on, do you, any of you ladies know of any resources that are out there for people to, that are, you know, free, that people can join in on or anything like that so that they can further educate themselves, rather if it be in commercial investing or buying actual real estate for themselves? It's on.
Oh, hello. So I would say there are many resources out there, but it all comes down to you guys seeking after it. One thing that I will always say is don't wait for people to come to you with things. We have to be resourceful. We have to go out there and seek the things that we want. Oftentimes we miss out because we're waiting for someone to fill our plate when we need to go and fill it ourselves. I would say there's always first time home buyer seminars. If you're looking to be a first time home buyer, there's plenty of them out there, but I will also research who's doing them, because oftentimes they're just seeking you as a client and not there to give you the nuts and the bolts of purchasing, right? So looking at that. Also look at what the I don't know if you guys have civic associations and things like that that's in like the city. Vedra mentioned some things about different things that are happening around the city in different areas and what they offer. Like, go to those different programs to understand, because oftentimes they share a little bit of knowledge that we don't have, right? And so I think I went to I don't think I did go to a Opportunity Lives Here seminar a couple of weeks ago, right here in Delaware, and they were talking about, or in Wilmington rather, at the Chase Center, and they were talking about different programs that were coming up for those that are looking to no longer rent, right? And so there were opportunities for you to find out how you can get money from the city of Wilmington to purchase. So again, don't wait for people to come to you to give you knowledge and understanding. Seek after those things that are out there that's going to teach you. So per se, I don't have anything that I know of, and then you probably Alicia knows a lot. She's a financial guru. Now, I'm a part of that too, but I don't have the knowledge. But I'll leave it at this. Again, seek things on your own. Take some time. If we're scrolling at night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. That we trolling. We looking at things that's going to make us laugh, but we're not looking for things that's going to make us money. So seek those things when you have the moment. And Alicia's going to give you all the information. Yeah.
Because we are on the east side, and I went through the program. The Dual Generation Center, if you ever heard it, it's a program that is stationed out of Stubbs Elementary School. So they have the first time home buyers program. If your child goes to Christiana School District, they'll definitely help you. But they also have transitional housing for you to live in while you're saving to move into the house. And they'll hook you up with the whole team.
Yeah.
And they help you while you're still in the house. And they need to connect with you.
Yes. Awesome. So NACA, NACA is honestly the number one program when it comes to buying a home. It's no closing costs and it's the lowest interest rate you're ever going to find. Many people don't use NACA simply because it's a process, right? It's checking in with your counselor. It's going to take a little bit longer. And in this particular market, sometimes you don't have that amount of time that it might take to be able to qualify for that program. But that's NACA. The other is credit unions. Almost every single credit union offers a 0% down product. Now, with those credit union programs that you can get in with no money down, the My Communities, they are going to require very high credit scores. So that's usually the piece that makes a big difference when you're trying to get in with no money, but they're very competitively priced. And again, they do tend to move slow. So I can feel my real estate agents kind of cringing as I say these programs because it's like almost like I'm setting you up, right? Because it's like, okay, you're going to come talking about NACA and they're going to be like, well, that house ain't going to work for NACA, or waiting for the 0% interest from the credit union because they might take longer. But again, I want you to know the resources are there for you. Another thing to consider is USDA. Here in Delaware, we are underpopulated in what we call below the canal. So it used to be in Middletown and Townsend, but now it's further lower Delaware. So past Dover, or in Smyrna, Kent County, you can usually get 100% financing, again, with USDA financing. And your real estate agent literally will look up the address of the property. Now, what we can't do is tell you where those houses are. That's called redlining, and that's illegal. Like, I can't say, hey, buy here because it's eligible for USDA. But what you can do is say, hey, I like this house, and let me know what financing options are available. Because this is what happened before when we get so caught up in programs and we talk about gentrification or Black communities. Like, how did all of that happen? Is because a lot of us followed the program. That's how those areas got started. They said, okay, all y'all want to get in with no money down, all y'all live right here. So that's what that's what happened. So we, out of one side of our mouths, we can't say we don't want that because we don't want to. And again, everybody's situation is different. My first house, I needed it. But there are, like Vedra mentioned, if you have the money, don't be afraid to part with the money to get what you desire. So being able to put $10,000 down, if you can save it, put it down. It's going towards the future in the area that you want to live in. So NACA credit unions offer 0% interest. USDA, if you are a veteran, even if you've been denied before, under this current administration, they've done a lot to improve veteran affairs. So they'll even help veterans that did not have honorable discharges buy a property. So if you can get a hold of your DD 214, then we can look it up to see if you're eligible. Yep. So the VA loan is a great product. Again, another 0% interest product. Now, they do come with a little bit higher closing costs. So the part I leave off is they have what's known as a funding fee. And if you're not paying it, it gets rolled in, or your seller or your builder may have to come up with it. But VA loans aren't like they used to be back in the day. They close just as fast as other loan products. It's not like waiting on NACA that I mentioned. That's why I want to be very clear. I didn't set you up because y'all gonna go to that meeting and be like, girl, nobody told me they need the blood of my firstborn. And it was one more I wanted to mention. Uh, FHA, FHA 3.5% down is a great product to have. FHA has a renovation loan component to it, the 203K, which will allow you to renovate a property as well. And again, if you can start from what you want. So if you identify a property after you work with one of these beautiful ladies and say, hey, I want to look at this property, they're going to tell you first get pre-approved, and then you're going to start looking at houses. And as you move around, then the lender can provide you with financing options based on that particular property. So they may not be able to tell you what your interest rate is today, because it's going to be based on the property and also your own personal finances. So there are some reasons why you may end up needing more than one FHA, but it's very rare that that gets approved. Some of those are if your job requires you to move and it's 99 miles away. So your employer has to write a letter that she will not have a job any longer if she doesn't move 99 miles away. If you already have an FHA loan, they'll accept that because that's not within your control, right? To have two. Divorce isn't one anymore, but people used to be able to use divorce as a reason to have more than one. That's no longer a qualifying component to have two FHA loans.
Piggybacking off the current question, if you were to convert your FHA, say, to a conventional, would you be able to apply for another FHA loan if you wanted to buy another property?
Definitely. So you can refinance your existing FHA loan into another loan. And I don't want to limit it to just a conventional loan, because it may be in a USDA area, right? It may also be able to qualify for a My Community, like I said, the 0% interest, which are known as portfolio loans. Like that banker made that decision at the desk. And then you have your conventional loan products as well. But yeah, you can actually, I mean, that's FHA. And then my next house I bought, sold was FHA, and then I had to refinance it to a conventional loan. I got to tap into the equity. So right now, for any, if you guys own houses and you still got that good job, you need to be looking into tapping into that equity, because we all face points in our lives where we like tired of our job, right? Or want to go somewhere else. We just get burnt out. And I'm like, well, before you leave, let's tap into the equity, because it will get trapped in your four walls. And that was one of the disasters that we saw of the last meltdown. People had all of this equity and thought that they would be able to get it. I mean, how many of us know someone that is like they're sitting on equity, but you're like, yo, but your car need to be repaired. Like you keep telling me all this money you got in your house, but your car needs some work, right? But it's because they're not eligible to get it out. And that eligibility is the same as when you bought the house. So we can't get in the house and get comfortable too fast and forget that that debt to income ratio is going to come into play if we want to tap into the equity.
Just as far as resources is concerned, and different programs that are available to you, either if you're looking for home ownership or if you own a home. So the city of Wilmington just opened up their pool for a program. It's called the First Start program, which is up to $15,000 or 6% of the purchase price to put towards your down payment and closing if you need it. If you own a home and you need repairs, Habitat for Humanity is helping with repairs, which you go through Delaware State Housing Authority. Also, Delaware State Housing Authority, if you are a homeowner and you fell on hard times, they did have the mortgage relief program, because life does happen. But it's a resource that is available. I don't know if funds are still available, but that is another opportunity. Another down payment assistance program is through Newcastle County. So that's another resource for you. There's a huge vacancy issue in the city of Wilmington, in terms of properties. So you can do land bank, you can find a vacant property, and they have the Catalyst Fund, which helps with the renovation of the property with the goal of either you can live in a home or sell the home, to someone who is a first time home buyer. And like I said, look at the different areas where they're revitalizing. South Bridge. Hmm? City of Wilmington had one that came out. It was the 2028 plan. But just know, plans are out there for like 2050. You can Google it online. It's public knowledge.
The Freedom of Information Act, you can Google that here in Delaware and it'll give you plans as well.
So the resources are there. You just got to take the time to look at them. Also, I'm going to say this from a personal experience. When you see things that come up from different organizations, state, so forth, go and attend, you would be surprised. There's a room of only 10 to 12 people, and those are the 10 or 12 people that's out here getting the money, being able to buy all these properties, rehab these properties, because they came to the affair, got all of the information, made that connection. And you're like, why ain't I getting these places? Or why didn't I put in the application correctly? Because they was at that meeting getting everything that they needed to make sure they either got the property or got the funding needed to do the rehab for the project.
I know. I had hours. So I know, no, all of those that you say has come to mind for me, but there was one that I recently heard of, a program for, I think it's Prosperity Mortgage. Remember that one? So his particular, or their particular program is based on your zip code or the address that you currently live in or live at. You may qualify for $10,000 towards closing costs. And it's not only the address, but also the one that you're trying to move to. If you're moving to another address and they run it through their map, you may qualify for 10,000. So the great thing about that is if the home that you're living in right now qualifies and you move to another one and that doesn't qualify, you still get that grant. And it's a grant. It's not something you have to pay back. So yeah, I just remembered that one.
Thank you for sharing. So I want to add my 2 cents in here. I bought my first house through NACA. I purchased my house from my mother. Growing up, I saw my mom going around collecting rent. I'm like, why are we stopping at people's houses? One lady used to always make pies. And I didn't know what she was doing, but she was going to collect that rent, right? Because this is old school. So it wasn't Cash App and PayPal and online. So that's when I first started to recognize, right? But I bought my first house through NACA, and the house needed work done to it. So we built repairs into the mortgage. Phaedra was my real estate agent. And like I said, I live right on Lancaster Avenue. So a house across the street went up for sale, right? She sold that. Now there's a house next door to me, and then on the other side. So I'm gonna tell y'all this. Investors are buying these houses, and people are still buying houses in the hood, in the city. So what they're doing is they're buying them, then they taking y'all rent money, and now y'all just tenants. So the same houses that you said that you didn't want to buy because it was in that city, right? I don't want to live in the city. I don't want to buy in the city. But now you're just paying rent to him and helping him pay off of the mortgage. So it does go full circle. Now I think we all have shopped at Walmart and Target before, right? NACA will give you a Walmart experience. I'm gonna just be honest with you. It's not the Target experience that you're looking for. But let me also say this: is Walmart prices affordable? Is it a Walmart typically wherever you go? Do Walmart got stuff that you need? You just find a good hours to go into Walmart, whether it's early or late. But I say that to say NACA gave me what I needed, right? I got bachelor's degree, my master's degree. I'm swimming in student loan debt to income ratio. So this is happening in real time. I might work at the bank, but at the end of the day, it don't matter because guess what? I still got to qualify just like everybody else. So I went through a program. My mortgage is cheap. Thank you, Lord. It makes a difference. This is not my forever home, but it works for now, right? Now I'm getting what you say, equity in the house. I don't live far from the riverfront. They gentrification, they building up and keep building because I'm holding, right? Uh, so as we say that, long-term strategies. What long-term strategies do you recommend for sustained success in real estate investment, considering potential market fluctuations? So long-term strategies for us.
Diversify your portfolio. Locations. And when I say diversify your portfolio, whether it's a single family house, condo community, that can help fluctuate when the market changes. I built a portfolio that was very diverse and it worked for me and my needs. My first house was able to channel me to get my second house and to continue on to build a nice portfolio, or paying cash for a place, refine and taking the money out to get the next one, and so forth and so on. Finding a place that gives you positive cash flow, uh, consistent income. And we went through COVID and we saw people could not pay, the bills. Um, the rent per se. I am a firm believer of Section 8 because when COVID hit, that check was coming, as opposed to those who were cash paying tenants and they could not pay your rent, aka your mortgage. You was stuck with now calling Delaware State Housing Authority or calling your local mortgage servicer asking for a forbearance or some type of arrangement. Having a contingency plan when something does arise. Adapting to the market and doing your research. Having patience and discipline as well. I would say that should be your long-term market strategy.
So, I can't give you guys a long-term strategy yet. If I don't mind, can I ask a question? How many of you guys own a home? Okay. So if you own a home already, you're not worried about losing your shirt. You know, you got a place to lay your head. You covering that mortgage pretty comfortable, first decide, is real estate what you want to do? And if that is it, then you can start looking at investor loans, right? Everything's going to go back to finance with me. So when you're buying an investment property, you don't have to qualify with a debt to income ratio. That's the secret. There's no personal income verification, but it is the strategy to cash flow, right? That is the part that I want to highlight. And what that cash flow plan looks like, it is the one you tell the bank, and then it's the one that on your business plan or your group, on how you're going to actually generate more than what that is, right? That the thing is, if the bank has to qualify you at the very best plan you have, that's probably not the property for you. So if that means you got to rent it out every single day, everybody got to show up, everything got to go right, you're not actually creating a true image of what cash flow can look like. But if you can create a plan based on a minimum, so if the minimum is I just use this space to host 1 or 2 events and I can cover that, anything else over it is now your cash flow plan. And then that's when you can actually start creating a long-term strategy. Because first time we try to create long-term strategies, often we're dreaming because we don't know really what that looks like. We're like, hey, I'm going to make $1,000 a month. My first tenant, I made $56 after the mortgage. Yeah. Yeah, after the mortgage. After the mortgage, I only made $56 a month. And let me tell you, I hounded her for that 56 though. Okay? I was there. Okay? I need that. Okay? Because I needed her to cover the mortgage and I need my 56. Okay? But that 56 later helped me qualify for another home. That $56 was on my loan application as positive cash flow and income. So don't despise the small numbers. A lot of times we want to start really big. And honestly, mostly, particularly women, we're going to be a little more conservative, right? So I'm not worried about everybody walking out thinking they're going to make $10,000 a month. But I want us to really understand that wealth is built little by little. And it was the 56 that turned to 203. Now on the first, y'all can't even get me out the bed because I'm like, that money hit. But it was days that money would hit and I still would try to have to fill up my car on the $1. Y'all remember the $1 when you used to put it in and it let you fill the whole tank up? Okay. So I mean, I just don't want you to look at, what you see all of us and what we've been able to do and really lose sight of your long-term plan. It might just be your plan to get you through the next 6 months. That might be your long-term plan right now. Your long-term plan might only be a year. Because I remember sitting down with people and they were like, what's your 5-year plan? And I was like, I don't know. Okay. Hold on. I just need to make sure that I don't overdraw my bank account because I put that whole tank of gas in for that dollar, right? So I just need that to be covered right now. I can't even think about 5 years from now. So I don't want you to get too caught up in the wording, but really more in the action to really start thinking from a place of planning. And I want you to think of how you would plan if you were talking to your kids. See, when we're planning, a lot of times we get to have all the dreams we want. But when our kids bring us all the dreams they got, we like, come on now. That's like Madison telling me she want to be an engineer. Girl, okay? You can't read, right? Like, but in my mind, if you ask me, my answer machine say I can finance the whole world, right? Because we believe it. We have it. So I want us to take a level of what we give our kids, right? To reset them. Because we don't say it to kill them. We give it to reset them so they can create smart goals. I want you, when you're sitting by yourself, to create your smart goals. Like, let them actually be measurable goals that you can attain.
Alicia touched on something. You talked about your kids. And I know we're talking about a subject that is, dear to us as adults. But it also starts with our kids and educating our children and putting them in a position where they don't learn about these things after they've made the mistakes that we either made in college by taking out credit cards and maxing them out, not paying them. So we have to set our kids up for success early. So like I said, this is not just for us, but it's also for our kids and teaching them about home ownership, paying your bills on time, interest rates. So those are the things that we should be instilling in our kids.
I want to give an example of that today. Example today. If my son is watching, this is for you, Randy. He had a basketball game. His eye got cut, and he's now off of our insurance. He has no insurance right now. He's 19. And he went to the ER, and the bill came in. It was $1,600. It's due December 16th. Okay, just came in. So I said, "Hey, do you have $1,600?" He said, "Hold on, you're not gonna pay it?" I said, "No." I said, "So our first step was we had to get on the phone, and we called. It didn't happen yet, but we're making a payment plan." And I want us not to be afraid of payment plans. Like, we really get past like the layaway, like our parents used to do, because we have credit cards. But I want us, if you can't afford something today, just like I'm making my son learn, don't be afraid to talk to your creditor, right? You're going to have to call them and say, "Y'all sewed this eye up, but I can't pay y'all. I don't have $1,600 to give you, you know, but I can pay what?" So then this is where the realistic goal setting came in. First, he was like, "I could give him probably like 300. Can you?" A month. Yeah. He was like, "Yeah." No. I said, "Didn't you just ask me for DoorDash?" I said, "What do you really think you can do?" He was like, "I probably could do 50." Okay. And I said, "Okay." I said, "I bet we can get a payment plan for 50 a month." But this was a moment in my life that my mom had with me. And my mom, I had a dental bill, right? And this is the things we don't think about sometimes. And my mom told me to call them people and tell them I only had $5 a month. It, and student loans, I was just about to say, student loans will let you do $5 a month. But what we do is we ignore it because we're afraid to talk to the creditor. Or we get caught up in this line right here. It doesn't show on my credit. But guess what? It shows up in your character. Because if somebody's not watching, will you pay? And that's where the measurables come in on next, the opportunities. So I just wanted, you brought that up, and that was a real life example, what we literally went through and how uncomfortable he was and how nervous he was and how I walked out the room intentionally because I am a helicopter mom. I wanted him to be able to talk to them himself. But these are the lessons that we can teach our kids, and we have to exercise it first. So my mom and dad didn't have perfect credit when I was growing up, but when my mom learned that, now this is something she told me. And now this is something I'm now telling my son, because that $1,600 credit card will destroy his credit the same way as a mortgage, the same way as not paying a $20,000 credit card. It has the same devastating effect because the principle is the same. Did you communicate with them, and did you pay them back? And did you take the extra steps to build your character with your creditor?
Bree can take the next question, but I just want to ask just randomly, who learned about like credit and being a homeowner growing up, like your parents, or who experienced that in the real, like who learned that in the real world? So by show of hands, who learned it in the household? Mom, dad taught you, kind of. Okay, so we got a kind of. So everybody else pretty much learned about it when. So what we gonna do to change that? Teach our kids, right? Teach our kids. So I just wanted to kind of gauge and see, because just based upon everything, right? It just sounds like if we had access to the information just a little bit more sooner, we would have done a little bit differently. Even for myself, that's swimming in student loan debt. I think one of the biggest mistakes is we as Black people, we go off of what somebody said versus doing the research for ourselves. So everybody said deferment, deferment. I'm deferring, deferring, deferring. And I look up and say, how do I owe all of this money? Because I went to Dale State down the street, right? In-state tuition. And even when I got my master's in Florida, I was a in-state resident. How do I owe? It's embarrassing to even say it. Hundreds of $1,000s, right? And I should have went to Harvard, because you deferment, deferring, deferring, deferring. Now I look up. Now it's my debt to income. I can't get a house, right? That's why I had to go through a program. So it's like you have a job, but you on this rat reel. It's just moving and it's moving. And I'm like, somebody just come grab my hand, take me up off this thing. And that's exactly how you feel when you just don't know. And this is why we bring program and bring people to share the information and share these resources. So I kind of want to open it up. I know you guys have been asking as the program has been going on, but is there any particular questions that you may have?
I just want to jump in. One of our viewers sent me a message. I have an 18-year-old son that's still in high school, his senior year. And in talking about, setting your children up for success, we started working on his credit, I believe at 14. I added him to my American Express. And I can happily say that we have done all that we could in terms of when he leaves our doors and goes on his next journey. He has a 746 credit score. um, so we have done all that we can to for him to continue his journey. It's up to him at this point, even though we fuss about, what he's spending, what he's buying, and having those conversations. I know that we're trying to do the best thing for him and give him everything that we did not get.
Imagine having a credit score like that. How at 18? How much differently would things have been? And I'm gonna put the mic in the audience so we can pass it around. But just imagine how you would feel walking into the world. My credit high. Because I feel like we start off struggling. It almost seems like soon as you get out of school, then they like, now you owe, get a job. Parents put you out. Not all parents, but we already start off in defense mode. So I'm gonna pass the mic off to you because I think
I don't need nobody.
okay.
Alicia, you mentioned briefly, touched on, business credit cards, the finance, home purchases. I think we know that. Really briefly, like, with a spinner, you said rules, like, we know how to, like, oh, because on that, how much they spend on that.
So, one of the strategies that I use to buy properties that are not quite yet bank ready. Meaning, we probably saw abandoned houses, houses that may even be on the land bank list here in the city. One of the things they're going to ask you is, how are you going to finance this? If we give you the property or if we sell it to you for well below market value, a lot of times they'll sell you these properties between $2,000 and $10,000. How are you going to renovate it though? Because the bank considers it a Class D property and think of D as demolition. So there is not a piece of collateral that they're actually interested in. So the myth I want to get out of everybody's head that's like, hey, I only want a loan for 60,000 or I only want a loan for 100, and you think the bank wants that loan, they don't. They rather have a piece of collateral already done at a higher price than a lower price. Okay, so it's easier to get a higher mortgage than a lower one. Now, those lower homes, you now can't necessarily walk in and get a traditional loan. You can't get your conventional loan. You may be able to go to the hard money lenders of the world, but even a lot of them have minimum loan requirements to get them. You can get business credit cards or personal credit cards and buy them. If they give it to you for $10,000, they will, if you go to the city, they let you swipe it through a payment processor. So you can buy a house literally with a credit card. Your payment on $100,000, if you have okay credit, you probably are paying on $100,000 for 18 years, right? We know how long that, but how long is a mortgage? 30, right? And you're probably looking at 250 a month. Okay. If now if you can get a 0% interest credit card, that's even better. But you can buy that property. Now you can kind of take your time and do the work, find your contractors. You know, now the land bank does have, usually you have to get it done in a year. Um, but now you're able to strategize and you're in control of the money. You're like the bank now, opposed to the bank putting the parameters on what you can do or what type of property you can buy. You now have a lot more control. And that strategy doesn't work everywhere, because my I do clients that have houses in Cali. First time home buyers buying $700,000. Okay, you can buy $1 million home as a first time home buyer. But we have where we can buy houses off of a credit card here. I buy and I invest a lot in Chester, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. I buy those houses. I just did a live yesterday. I buy them on a credit card. I get them to a place where then the bank will then give me a full loan on it.
For our live audience, go ahead and use the mic for me, please. Thank you.
A follow-up to that. So do you recommend using a personal credit card for those purchases or a business credit card? Do you buy in your business name or your personal name?
So I use business credit cards simply because they don't report on my personal credit. So then it doesn't affect my debt to income ratio for the other moves that I'm trying to make. Um, you know, I played a game, but I tell people I played the personal credit game first. You know, and when people are like, "Man, I'm so afraid of credit cards," I'm like, "You did it personally, and you didn't even buy nothing. You was just rolling over debt that you had. You was paying your electric bill and your phone bill. Now you could actually have a piece of collateral. You could actually have a property that, if things go south, if you bought it with asking the right questions and with the right group, even you can sell it, and you sell it and you pay the card off. Like, it's just us not feeling like we have to go one route. And I hope that this event brings that it's not just one way. You don't have to use a down payment assistance program. You don't have to use a program at all. You don't have to get a mortgage. You can get a credit card. You can have an investment group, you and your girlfriends. No, it doesn't have to be this big investment group. It could be her $25,000 credit card and your $25,000 credit card. Now y'all got 50. to go buy some houses, right? So I think that's the part that we miss, that we think we have to do a textbook, because when, you know, the people who buy a lot here in Delaware, when they're buying, they're not going in with a bank mortgage, okay? They have a certain amount of cash flow that went through their bank account, and they got a business line of credit. WISFIS will give you a business line of credit with just 6 months of activity through a business bank account. You can get $10,000 to $50,000. It's set at the Wall Street Prime. Right now, that rate is 10.49%. Now, you might think that's high, but is it really high if your strategy is to flip? Because interest is APR. So if the rate is 12%, that means you pay 1% a month. If you got the job done in 6, you paid 6%. Again, that's why the question of interest rate, I saw everybody's face, kills us every time, and we don't get in the game because we don't even know what that really means. No problem.
I mean, I have a whole bunch of questions. I could keep going. I have a whole bunch of questions. I could keep going. So, buying properties for investment purposes. This is my interest in case you haven't realized that. So now I'm talking about buying a property with your own money versus, no, what I'm trying to say. Buying tax lien properties. There are lots of pitfalls. You can end up buying a swamp and not knowing because you can't see the properties and bidding on properties at auctions. Do you have any experience with that? Do you have any expertise to share?
Well, first is I want you to view the property, if you can get to it, like a boyfriend that won't let you in and you mad. You figure out how to get in there, right? So I tell people a lot of the properties on auction sites, they'll give you the full address. You can walk around, you can take some look, you could take the address. And here's the secret part. You can do what's called a skip trace. So a skip trace. Okay. So the first thing is if a property is here in Delaware, you can go to the Newcastle County parcel search. You type in the number and the street address, hit go, and then the property will show up at the bottom. You click the property, and then you're going to you're going to scroll to the bottom and you're going to see who owns the property, number one. Once you see who owns the property, then you can go to white pages and look them up. You can, if you have a relationship with a title company or an attorney, you can have them look them up. If you have a relationship with a real estate agent, they may have additional information, especially if it's a property that's sold recently. They may actually have additional information about that individual. The part I like to do is I like to pull up the tax bill. I like to go on the tax bill, and then I like to look on the left-hand side and see if it's a mortgage company. In the mortgage company box, it'll have a code in there if they have a mortgage where the mortgage company was actually paying the taxes. That lets you know. I tend to stay away from those ones because that's the things that can trap you. You can buy it from the sale, and if you're not buying it from a forgivable sale like a land bank that wipes everything clear, you buy it, you still will owe that mortgage. Okay. Yep, you're saying it correctly. Yes. So each sale is different. You got your cheat sales, your abatement sales, your probate sales. Like when you're getting into taxes, these are all the things that create a level of risk. But if you do some of the homework yourself, again, if there's no mortgage code there, it's less likely that there is a mortgage. Now, post COVID or during COVID, right now, banks get to bid online, so they show up now. So a lot of times if they're a mortgage, they're going to take the house back and then do it as a foreclosure themselves. But if it's a property and no one shows up, often there aren't an actual mortgage, but there still can be other liens. So my friend, she was bidding on a house that was next door to her. You know, she looked up everything, did a title search, everything looked good, but found out that the guy owed $5,000 to the IRS. So now she got it at such a great price. It made sense for her to pay that IRS lien. But there is no like surefire way unless you buy like through a land bank type of product, because that is what they're doing. They're wiping everything clear on the property and selling it to you that way. Also, foreclosures, there is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have their own foreclosure sites. The name of I think it's First Steps is Freddie Mac. Front Door might be the other one. I can't think of it right now. But if you type in Fannie Mae foreclosure list, so back in the day, our parents or somebody, you know, the gurus used to say, go to the bank and ask for the list. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. It's a lie. Okay. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they post their foreclosures right on there. Now, they do have a first look, which is usually about 8 to 10 days for homeowners to try to buy it. But after that first look, then investors can buy those properties. And you can bid on those ones below asking price. See, a lot of times we get under the misconception that, hey, they listed it here, we got to buy it here. No, that's just where that real estate agent said it should be worth. But if nobody bid on it in the first look, then I'm telling them it obviously ain't worth it. Nobody wanted that. So this is a strategy that I use to bid lower on those properties. And again, they forgive anything else that was on the loan. They also, if you buy one through HUD will allow you to buy and you don't have to pay transfer taxes. So these are just ways to get investment properties that I'm going to say are already properties tailored to investors. Because when you're going with your real estate agent and you're buying the same houses that homeowners are competing on, it's not a very investor friendly market. You know, there's legislation trying to go into place right now, so BlackRock can't buy up all of the single family homes. But these sites that I just shared with you, they give an opportunity for investors and they allow you to write a narrative. That's another secret, that I'm a new investor and I would love if Fannie Mae would allow me to get this property, you know. So this is a live person looking at these deals. It's not an automated, it's not a lottery. For HUD, you actually have to work with a real estate agent who is certified to sell those properties. Um, you know, again, there's not a lot of them in our area, full transparency, but when they do hit the market, they can be really nice. I mean, I just saw some in the Freddie Mac site, some beautiful homes in Middletown, you know. Now, is black mold all in that basement? You know, there's no power. So these are another investor tip. How long has the power been out? If there's no power in a property and no water, you got mold. I don't care what they say, it's a mole in there because the house didn't just stop working, you know.
Smell it once you open the door. So no, it was like I don't know.
Just sitting. It could be the water heater, right? Like the water heater is still running, even though there's now no power. So there was some water sitting in there, and that pressure builds up. And these are all things that can happen. But the part that I think is the hardest part, if I have to say, is a contractor. Okay. The hardest part of all of this is finding a good contractor. Um, and that's because, first of all, contractors aren't known for their paperwork, right? They're not known for that personality type. So, things that we can do as women is we can take developer courses. The city of Baltimore offers a course for you to become a general contractor. Here in Delaware, you just pay $300 and you're a GC. So if y'all just be believing people that say they a GC, it's $300. But the classes you can take, Baltimore City is really big on investing in women understanding how construction works. Um, so I would say take some classes there, because then you'll know when you're looking at your estimate what parts should be first. You know, understanding that, is the contractor that you love, that you've been working with, is he actually doing the work, or is he giving it to another crew to do? And don't think you have to profit everything at once. One of my best flips that I had, I partnered with the contractor. So he was just as invested as I was in getting the work done on that particular property. And I would go to the job site. If you guys follow me on Instagram, please do, Alicia Cooper Wells and Miss Cooper Home Loans. Going to the site, you can't just sit back and just let the contractor work. Life will life, things will happen, and you need to catch it as soon as possible. So when it comes to risk, we can talk the numbers, you can get the property, but then can you get somebody to do the work? Yeah, RIA's real estate investment groups here, and there are. I think they have a pretty good one here. I don't participate in a RIA here, here in Wilmington, but there are. And you can Google RIA's, and they'll let you put in the address or the zip code, and you can find it. And I think you need me to stop.
Ladies, what we gotta do? Raise the church finger, church finger, church finger. It's time. It's time. Let's close it on out, ladies. Give me your 60-second elevator speech as it pertains to real estate. Give me 60 seconds of something that you think everybody should know, starting on down with you, Miss Brianna.
60 seconds. What I think you should know about real estate is don't be afraid to ask your real estate any questions at all. And believe that a real estate agent does have their knowledge, but we're always learning. So it's important for us to network and be with each other, because you may ask me a question and I have to ask her because she has the knowledge on that particular thing. So just don't be ever afraid to ask your real estate agent any questions.
Thank you. And Kalila, Miss Kalila Ling, 60
Yes.
seconds. What you got?
So I would say don't be afraid. I start there. It's always about mindset with me. I'm like the guru of mindset, because in order to achieve anything, you have to first believe that you can have it and you can do it. Also, get around people that have your answer and not your problem. Just like you ladies and gentlemen came here tonight to receive something. The hope is that you take something, even if it's one thing, and you act on it and you share it. So again, kudos to you for taking time out tonight just to come to hear what we had to say. And hopefully, again, you take something out of it and run with it.
Thank you. All right, Miss Alicia Cooper Wells, what you got?
Yes. One thing is, everybody follow me on social media.
Follow her. Also, follow all of these lovely ladies.
But I'm gonna say the most powerful thing that I've had throughout my real estate investing when life changed was having good credit. Fix your credit. Yes, you're going to hear it doesn't matter. It doesn't. I want you to know credit always matters, because credit equals character. And even when I tell people, oh, we do loan products with no credit check, we check. We do a soft pull. We don't need your social to pull. As long as we got those other components, your address, your name, we're still taking a peek. So fix your credit. And if you need help with that, I definitely have some resources for you.
She got the resources. Get with her. All right, Miss Lady V on Instagram. Vasia
Yes.
Johnson, what you got for us?
I got two things. Trust the process. And my second thing is the opportunities in real estate are limitless, as you found out tonight. So just remember, the opportunities are limitless.
Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure as always. I always feel like we don't ever have enough time to talk about real estate because it's just so many different pockets to it. So we went over a little bit, but I think it was a good for good reason, right? Make sure that you feel seen, heard, valued. That's what Pay It Forward Networking Group is all about. And that you really got a chance to listen to these dynamic women. I'm always so inspired by y'all. Y'all look good. Um, smell good, cocoa butter and stuff. It's definitely I get inspiration by being around ladies like you. So I've learned so much. Thank you. And thank you, Alicia, because Alicia told me, she said, don't wait. I know I gotta wrap this up, but I waited on getting my investment property and now the interest rates is high. So I gotta re-strategize. But I hear Alicia saying it's never gonna be a good time. Cause I was like, let me just wait. Let me just wait. And then look what happened. Interest rates is high. And I said, if I would have just pushed the button, I would have just figured it out like I figure everything else. But we're here. That's why we learn. Thank y'all. Make sure y'all get some food. Thank y'all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate y'all. Pay It Forward Networking Group. We just getting started, but we can't do it without y'all. So thank you, baby girl. You was at the first one. Thank you for coming to this one. I'll pay attention.